Alrighty, hello everybody and welcome to the Top Producer Show. My name is Brandy and this is Jeff. So the whole point of the Top Producer Show is to show you what it takes to become a top producer, and we mainly geared this towards network marketing. However, all of the methods that we use in network marketing, we also use in our traditional business as well. So feel free to take some notes and let's get started. So we have been going over Atomic Habits. And we are on chapter 7, which is the secret to self-control. Now, this is a little bit of a shorter chapter today, but it was still really good. So in 1971, as the Vietnam War was heading into its 16th year, the Congressman Robert Steele from Connecticut and Morgan Murphy from Illinois made the discovery, and they were stunned to find out that while they were visiting the troops, they had learned that over 15% of U.S. soldiers that were stationed there were heroin addicts. So, follow-up research revealed that 35% of the service members in Vietnam had tried heroin, and as many as 20% were addicted. So the discovery led to a flurry of activity in Washington, including the creation of the Special Action Office of Drug Abuse Prevention under President Nixon. So to promote prevention and rehabilitation to track addicted service members when they returned home. So Lee Robinson, who was one of the researchers in charge, they were in finding that completely what did I type there? Here, throw her over there. I'm not sure what exactly I've typed there, but anywho, what they found is their users that return home, only 5% of them actually became re-addicted, and within a year, and just 12% relapsed within 3 years. So which means 9 out of 10 soldiers who used heroin in Vietnam eliminated their addiction nearly overnight. Now, how exactly does that happen? Most people know heroin as one of those drugs where once you're addicted to it, it is for life. So how was it that the soldiers were able to come completely off it? Meanwhile, here, there were still people struggling. So what they realized was a lot of the cues that were incentivizing that habit were all there, and once they all came back home, those cues were no longer there for them to use, compared to somebody who is here. Once they go through the rehab center, they go back home where all of those where the old lifestyle was, where the cue would still continue. So by completely removing them from that environment, they no longer had that cue where they would want to reuse again. So perseverance, grit, and willpower are essential to success, but the way to improve these qualities is not by wishing you were a more disciplined person, but by creating a more disciplined environment. So creating the environment where none of your old habits are going to resurface, because your habits are always going to stick there, because you can always resort back to an old habit. You'll see this a lot with smokers, where if they had a certain time where they would smoke, even if they haven't done it in years, they'll all of a sudden have an urge to smoke. Like one example that was given in the book was a lady who would go riding horse with a friend, and she would always have a cigarette. She's like, I quit, and then I also hadn't rode in a while, but then years later, went out riding with some friends, she's like, I haven't smoked in years, and all of a sudden I have the urge to have a cigarette. So those habits can still sit there. It's just a matter of what is the cue and recognizing what that cue is. And sometimes it takes a little while to get out of that, but the old habit still stays. It's just you want to be able to create a new habit where it takes over and you want to create that environment. But that is pretty much what I got from this chapter. It is a short one. Jeff, would you have anything to add? Or what did you write?
So the whole thing is self-control is less needed. You know, everybody talks about self-control. Self-control. You just need self-control or just need self-discipline. Yes, it's true. You do need some of that. But what they found was self-control is less about the control and more about the environment and the reason to do whatever you're doing. Bad habits are usually self-feeding and easy to justify. You know, you feel sluggish, so you watch TV. When you watch TV, you feel more sluggish, you watch more TV, right? I mean, that's kind of how it works. You're hungry and you want something quick and fast, so you eat junk food, and then you're hungry because you ate crap and now you want to eat more junk food. It's just kind of the way that it works, right? If you can't get any work done, you leave your phone in the other room. That way you're going to get more done. You leave the TV off, or you go to another place where the TV isn't. So I think really what he's talking about is setting up your life where you don't have all of these distractions. You don't have all these clues. I used to tell my mom's like, well, it's kind of hard to stop eating junk food and crap. I'm like, well, no, it's hard when you keep buying it. It's hard when you keep buying it and it's sitting on the counter and it's sitting in the cupboard and it's sitting in the fridge. If you keep buying shitty food, you will keep eating shitty food. That's how it works. But the justification, well, the grandkids, the this, the that. I'm like, they will survive 24 hours without crap because most of the time she never kept them for longer than that. If they come over for an afternoon, I'm like, besides the fact that you're ordering pizza, so you're not really getting it for them, you're getting it for you. And I get it, I didn't argue with her, but when she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, look, your grandkids are this age, here's your chart, you will be dead by the time they graduate at the current rate, because she was really eating Fritos for dinner every night. Mm-hmm. I mean, the doctor said, you're not going to make it. Look at your elevated cholesterol, look at your elevated blood pressure, look at your elevated type 2 diet. She had just turned type 2. And they're like, you won't make it. So finally, she had the trigger or the cue to be like, okay, need to change the environment. So she called me coming out of that doctor's appointment and said, okay, what do I need to do? And I was like, the simple thing is just get rid of everything. Literally box it up and throw it away. Because if you have access to bad things, you'll do bad things. Whether it's eating, whether it's smoking, whether it's drinking, whether it's heroin, if you have access to it, that's where part of the addiction is being around the people who also do that, right? Mm-hmm. So remove the cue or the trigger that triggers this addiction, or this bad habit that you have. People who have high self-control put themselves in less tempting situations. I think it's more about not being around it. For instance, I have friends that are in recovery for alcohol, for many, many things. The key is if you're in recovery for alcohol, you don't go to a bar. It's not because the bar's bad, it's because the environment does what? The environment triggers drinking. The environment triggers the want to drink. Why? Because people are social and want social recognition. They want social approval. So because everybody has a drink in their hand, you want to have a drink in your hand because everybody has a drink in your hand and you want to fit in. That's how it works. And then some people just can't stop that because of chemistry, because of some other things that are going on in their life. So you just don't want to put yourself in that situation. Self-control is a short-term strategy, not really a long-term. You don't become addicted to something, and they say, well, the first thing you need to do is get self-control. So what we want you to do is go to a bar 7 nights a week to stop drinking. That wouldn't, I'm sure for 1 or 2 people out of millions it would work, but for most of us, it's not going to work. Now, the hardest thing to do is actually sit at a bar. If you've ever been to a bar or out with a group of people who are drinking and you're not drinking, it's not a fun experience. Why? Because everybody turns into an asshole very, very quickly, and you're the only one that can see it, right? And then you're like, this is not a good time. This is not fun. But I will give you this trick. In network marketing, in business in general, it's a great time if you don't have the addiction. It's a great time to go out with everybody and watch everybody drink. Why? Because everybody will tell you everything good and everything bad. a couple drinks and people are revealing what's really going on behind the scenes and who's with who and who's not with who and this, that, and the other thing. And then you have the ability to play the game of business with a clear sight in what's actually happening. People always ask me, they're like, Jeff, how do you know so much stuff about the background of these people and who slept with who and who did this and who bought that and who lost this? I was like, oh, I just go out with everybody for about an hour. I might go back to the hotel and get some sleep and then come out for the party. And I just wait for everybody to walk out, or, you know, I don't hang out near the bar, but I just wait for everybody to walk out and talk, and they will tell you everything that they're not supposed to be talking about. It's really interesting. So now people are like, oh, don't go out with Jeff if you ever, yeah. Trust me, it happens. Even people who said, I'm not going to do that. So that's what this is about. So how does this apply to direct sales? How does this apply to network marketing? How does it apply to contacting and prospecting and presenting and promoting? You got to put yourself in a situation where you're going to prospect. Obviously, if you're coming home and initially, and the biggest distraction is the couch or the sofa, right? That's not going to be a good thing. So you don't want to go home and sit on the couch or the sofa. You want to go maybe to the kitchen table. You might want to go to a non-distracting. You might have to set up a desk in the garage. I have a really good friend that did I think he did 800,000 last year in income. But that's what he initially had to do. He had to set up his business in his garage. He goes, why? Because there was nothing else to do in the garage. Turn your car off, obviously. Don't close the garage door and have stuff on. But he sat out there, and that's where he made all his calls. No distractions, no extras, no TV, no kids running around. Like, there was just nothing. And he basically said, don't open unless you're bleeding or we're going to the hospital, don't open the door to ask me dumb shit. Like, hey, do you think we should put a picture up in the other room? He's like, no distractions. Ended up building to $800,000. So, when you eliminate the distractions, when you eliminate the environment of confusion, you can put yourself in that mode, in that case. Now, some of us, we can't work from home. Like, I get it. Some people can't work from home. They live in an apartment and there's 2 rooms, right? And, one's a bedroom, the other one, and it's just tough to do because you got animals and kids and stuff. I get it. So you might have to go to a Starbucks. You might have to go to a Panera Bread. Say, look, before I get done with anything, this is what I'm going to do. To be able to, do that. I know another person who had to go to their car. Literally sat in the car. And that's where they did all their calls and made all their... And actually, I've done that before because it is isolated. And by the way, I don't do it while I'm driving. I'm not texting a bunch of people, like marketing wise, while I'm driving. If I'm texting 75 people, I just get to a stationary place and we'll do it. And then sometimes I'll book all my calls and then I'll go to the car to actually physically make the call. So that way I don't have the cats. I don't have the television. I don't have because I have multiple computers. I have 2 computers, one, to surf on, really, probably more than anything, and the other one to build out all the PowerPoints and do different things. The one's internet speed is much, much faster. So that's just me. So if I have my phone and I'm texting and I have 2 monitors, man, the likelihood of jumping onto Facebook or jumping onto Instagram or jumping onto YouTube or jumping onto one of these other, that's the issue, right? To get it done. When it comes to setting up anything, you have to put your schedule together. You have to put your schedule together in a way where the distractions are limited. Part of the reason I see people get into huge problems in relationships, and when we had a huge team, I had a lot of people coming up, oh, so-and-so's this, that, and the other thing. I was like, okay, well, what happened? Let me get some context here. Why? Well, every time, that's how it always starts. Every time I go to do this, and this happens, and then, I'm getting yelled at. Okay, well, what were you trying to do? Well, I was trying to make my calls, and I was trying to do this, and I was trying to do that, but there was a kids game, and I was going to miss. I was like, okay, so basically what happened is you guys don't know how to communicate. You know, you didn't sit down on Sunday like we talked about and said, hey, what do you got going on this week? And found out, you know, that Wednesday there's a baseball game, or Wednesday there's a recital, or Wednesday there's a play that you're supposed to be at the kids, or, you know, parent teacher night. You're not communicating. And then what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I'm supposed to be building my business, but that's, you know, you're building your business. You say you're building your business for your family, but you're neglecting your family to build your business. That isn't going to work. And that's where the fights come in, because you're not communicating. And most of us were not taught to communicate, right? Unless you grew up in, some people did. They grew up in a great family where everybody communicated and it was very clear and it was very open. I was just on a live with a friend of mine, and his family grew up in Alaska. And he's like, dude, there was nobody else around. You had to resolve conflict because you just had to see all these people every day at dinner. And he had a large family. And he goes, and my parents basically kept people who had bad habits and had bad addictions. And he's like, they kept us away from all these people. So like we didn't, he goes, I grew up, I didn't know that people had these massive conflicts with scheduling and relationships and all this different stuff. And that's what a lot of this stuff is learning how to deal. Like, there are better ways to do things. There are better ways to do things in relationships. There's better ways to do things in business. There's better ways to do things in contacting. There's better ways to do things in presenting. And part of it, you have to be open, because your subconscious says, hey, stupid, you already know how to do that. Hey, you're fine. You've always made it. You know, your subconscious and your comfort zone will tell you everything's good. You don't need to change. Everything's fine. You don't need to change. It's everybody else's fault. And then you throw in the self-esteem thing, and the lower your self-esteem, the more you'll stick to the bullshit story you have. The higher your self-esteem, the more you're open to having the conversation, because you're like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to tell me anything that's going to ruin my day, because I'm not affected by it. So that's why they say work harder on yourself than you do anything else. So that's really what I got out of the chapter, and, you know, kind of how it applies. The secret of self-control is putting yourself in a situation where you don't have to use as much self-control. It's just environment set up that way. Conversations are set up that way. So that way all the triggers are there to do the right work. That's why in the book, Think and Grow Rich, it says every morning read your vision statement, and every night read your vision statement. Why? Because you're constantly putting that image in the back of your head, and you're setting yourself up to succeed. Where most of us do what? I'm going through being uncomfortable in a few areas to go. Yeah. Most of us get up and look at our phone, and we see all the messed up stuff that's going on, and that's our first reaction. Now our entire subconscious, our conscious, is completely focused on all the bullshit that's going on. Is that really the best way to do it? No. That's why Think and Grow Rich says, you know, do the vision statement. Tony Robbins says, do the incantations first, you know, meditate, do your incantations, meditate. I can't remember which order it was. Work out, right? And then read your vision statement. So that way you're kind of in a peak state, even, you know, he gets you into a peak state even when you read your vision statement. That way it sticks more. That way it's easier. He goes, make sure you can't get to your phone right away. Don't put your phone in your room, you know, and he had this whole talk about that on a video I recently watched. So that's what I got. Hopefully that helps. By the way, the whole purpose of this is to help people who are in direct sales, who are in network marketing. If you're struggling, if you're like, I don't know who to talk to, I don't know what to say, that's why we put together the show, one, and we put together Join My Leadership Network, which is a company that specifically is about coaching and training. And we have a lead program. So if you're searching for leads, if you're searching for that kind of direction of what to do and how to do and when to do, why you should be doing it, if you're looking for that, go to Join My Leadership Network and register. You don't have to buy anything. Let's get on the phone and talk. So if you register, we can set up, you know, a 45-minute coaching call, and pretty much I'm able to identify in the first 25 minutes, hey, here's what's missing, here's where you're struggling, here's what's wrong, and then we can figure it out from there. Mm-hmm. So that's what I got. Tomorrow is chapter 8.
Yep. So also this video will be uploaded to YouTube. So that way, if you guys want to go back and take some notes, you're more than welcome to. Be sure to subscribe to it as well. We're also on Instagram and TikTok. So you want to be on there as well. So everybody who is joining us on Instagram, that's where you can find the information. Again, the link is joinmyleadershipnetwork.com. So you could go there and then message Jeff for any questions, or if you need to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me too. So with that, we are going to end, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
Assalamu alaikum.